Hello and welcome to another episode of What If It's Cool, the show where we talk about anything and everything that is cool in the world today. I am Daniel Paul Crow from What If It's Cool. If you don't get this reference, then this show is definitely not for you. And on this episode, I have a sit-down chat with World Series Wrestling boss, CEO, and just all-round nice guy, Adrian Manera. We talk about his humble beginnings as a uni student, being a fan of the world of professional wrestling, to starting up World Series Wrestling back in 2005. So sit back, relax, and enjoy being remembered for having fun with Adrian Manera. Again, thank you so much for being part of our show. I know you're incredibly busy, but I just want to round off of some of the companies that you have your hands in.
Sure.
So Haggle Co, home and furniture.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
1 Degree. Now, 1 Degree is the yoga slash gym, right?
Yeah, it's like a yoga Pilates wellbeing studio here in Adelaide.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Villain Gaming.
Yes, I'm actually on a Villain Gaming chair right now.
Wow.
So we manufacture, design one of Australia's leading gaming chair brands. So we sell that in stores and online around Australia. Yeah.
Wow. And then obviously we have World Series Wrestling, which is what we're here to
Yes.
talk about today. But is it safe to say that you're the Tony Khan of the Australian wrestling scene?
I wouldn't say that, but I'm definitely a very passionate wrestling supporter for sure.
Oh, cool. Well, let's talk about the promotion itself. So how did you get it started, and when did it actually start? Because I know it originally started in, what was it, 2005, correct?
Yeah, so it's sort of my wrestling promoting started a little bit before that. So back in 1999, I hosted my first wrestling extravaganza here in Adelaide under a brand name called Ultimate Championship Wrestling, and the live events
that was you?
They were called
I remember seeing
Wrestle
members of
Rage.
this. Yeah.
So no one was really doing anything back then. The only wrestling I'd seen, because I was obviously a massive fan growing up as a kid. Well, there was a tour that came in about 1993, I believe, from memory, called Wrestle Riot, and it had there's two of them that came. It had Junkyard Dog, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and the big unknown talents who blew everyone away were Chris Benoit, Dean and Joe Malenko, and
Whoa.
a guy called Akira Nagami. So they did these tours around Australia. So I went as a fan, and I loved them, and I was more taken by these new wave of talent than the talent I grew up watching, because obviously, they'd been sort of semi-retired for a few years. But it got me thinking, like, hey, I'm a wrestling fan. Hey, it looks like there's more than just me around the place, because obviously it wasn't on TV back then. It had sort of died out. Anyway, so long story short, I thought, you know what, I'm going to have a go at this. So I started my own promotion, and I held it here at Thebarton Theatre in Adelaide, and which was sort of synonymous or iconic for wrestling of the era. And we basically sold it out. So I continued doing that, and I just used Australian talent. So a lot of guys from Melbourne I brought over. I used TNT, who's based up in Sydney, a few Adelaide guys, and just try to put on a series of shows, which I did over the course of a few years. And then I sort of finished uni, started working, and I thought, I can't do this wrestling stuff anymore. So I sort of gave it away. And then a few years later, got married and was on my honeymoon in America, and happened to bump into Christy Hemme, who was a WWE diva at the time, and then went on to TNA, used to do Playboy. But anyway, bumped into her, and I said to my wife, you know what, it's a sign. I've got to bring wrestling back. So lo and behold, World Series Wrestling was born, and we didn't go in, or I didn't go in half-assed. We went in, full force, and we did a big tour in Melbourne at the Vodafone Arena. We did Sydney Olympic Park Sports Centre and the Newcastle Entertainment Centre, and we literally got the who's who of independent wrestling. We got, Jeff Jarrett, Rhino, had just been fired after performing at the ECW One Night Stand, which was WWE's version of it. We had the Dudley Boys, we had the Late Test, we had Nathan Jones in his final ever wrestling matches. We had Samoa Joe, we had Frankie Kazarian, we had Super Dragon, who owns the iconic PWG. We had so many talents. I can't even remember off the top of my head. We had Gail Kim and Nydia, but a highlight for me was having AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels, who were heated rivals at the time.
Yep.
So we had a best of 3 series at a 30-minute Ironman match, which even to this day was one of the best matches I'd seen live. Yeah, so we did that, and that was from the attendance was good. The shows were well received. The wrestlers loved coming over. I built a great relationship with them, but sadly, financially, it wasn't a great success. So I gave it a rest for sort of 18 months, and then I came back and did a couple more. And then businesses started, children came along, and the wrestling scene had dwindled a little bit. Like, it was still there, and I was still watching and still very much a fan, keeping up with all the different developments, the rise of Ring of Honor and all these kind of things. But I just stepped away from the promoting, and then going a few years later, my son became a little bit interested in it, and I thought, wow, someone to talk about wrestling with. And I thought, he doesn't even know, like, his favorite wrestler was AJ Styles, and I was saying to him, Dad brought him over in 2005, and he had these great matches. Oh wow, but I don't think he really grasped it. So I thought, you know what, it's time to blow the dust off the promoting and get back into it. So World Series Wrestling returned. So that's what happened in 2017, and we've been sort of steadily going ever since, apart from obviously the COVID hiccup for a couple of years.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the first tour, and you said it wasn't a financial success. What was what actually stunted from being a financial success? Was it the talent's wages, or was it not selling enough tickets?
No. What it was, to be very frank, it was in 2005. So in that year, it was March. WWE came and did a big tour. They did Newcastle, they did Adelaide, they did Melbourne, they did Sydney. Had a great success. I know they sold record numbers of merchandise. It was really well received. So that was in March. So I deliberately timed our tour for October. And remember, I'm a wrestling fan of back then. It was 20 years. Now it's nearly 40 years. But so even though I was watching WWE, to me, it didn't really. I went because it was on and I was interested. But my interest in wrestling, I was interested in different wrestlers, different characters. So Impact, or TNA as it was just starting, and they had the AJ Styles, the Christopher Daniels. That Ring of Honor was a big thing. You had you had Samoa Joe, you had Bryan Danielson, you had all these type of Nigel McGuinness, all these different types of talent. So I just sort of thought, well, maybe if I can combine some WWE talent coupled with these emerging stars. Like, when I watch wrestling, I want to watch proper matches. I don't want to watch a guy as a fireman or, someone dressed up as a clown. So I sort of thought, well, let's get some names of WWE who could work, not just, guys. So, Jeff Jarrett was a good worker. Rhino had come from ECW. The Dudley Boys were very big. And I sort of coupled them with the names I just mentioned, the Samoa Joes, the Super Dragons. So Super Dragon was obviously very underground at the time. So I just tried to create a nice ensemble of wrestlers. So as I said, the shows themselves I thought were excellent. They're very well received. But what happened with WWE came in March, and I started announcing, and the tickets went on sale, and they went bananas. That first week I couldn't believe it. I thought, oh my God, thank goodness, because I've invested so much money. What a relief. And then lo and behold, WWE announced, we're coming back. So never to this day have WWE ever done 2 tours in a year. Never. But just this particular year. So they came back and announced they're coming back 3 weeks after my tour. I think that was as soon as that they could sort of rally it up. I remember getting legal letters from their legal department at the time about different things. And as a guy in his 20s, shit yourself.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So so once they announced, it definitely put the handbrake on what could have been enormous tours. So as I said, the ticket sales were still great for the time, and even looking back, they were great numbers, but they could have been a lot more. And unfortunately, we just didn't end up in front financially. But as I said, everyone had a great experience. And even Christopher Daniels, he toured with us a couple of years ago with Frankie Kazarian, actually. And when I saw them, they looked at me and I said, it's been a while. And they go, we still remember that tour. It was one of the best tours of our lives. And our last tour that we just had, as soon as Chelsea Green got off the aeroplane at Adelaide Airport, her, Taya Valkyrie, they both came up to me and said, Gail Kim says hello. She said, do I remember her from 2005? She said, let him know that was the best international tour I'd ever done. So I just sort of thought, wow, for her to even remember, and 20 years later or 18 years later to select, to acknowledge it, I thought that was lovely. So yeah. So as I said, I think everyone enjoyed themselves, but just because of that incoming competitor, it definitely slowed us down financially.
Yeah, but that's really humbling, and that's amazing that this tour, that especially that first tour, was just fantastic. Because I do remember when it was announced. Unfortunately, at the time, I was broke, and I didn't get to go. I didn't get to go. I eventually did get to go to the 2017 one, and I was, but literally about to swear. I'm going to try and keep it PG on this one. But no, I was very, very impressed. The people who I knew that worked on the show in the one in Melbourne, all told me the same thing. That it was the place to be. It was like it wasn't working. It was basically just having fun, and that's the kind of promotions that I think we need to have, not only just here in Australia, but just in general. Because you got to think about all these people. They're on tour for what 300 days a year.
Yep.
Yeah, and they want to have a bit of fun. They don't want to just work. So hats off to you, man, because that's fantastic to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this is going to be really hard for me to say because I got to admit that I nearly asked for a refund on this one, so I do apologize on this one. But last year we had Jonathan Grisham announced, and obviously he had didn't come. AEW knocked on his door, said, "Hey, we want you on TV," and he had to do it. And be honest, if I was in the same situation to be on national exposure, I probably would have done the exact same thing, because who wouldn't? You want to get your name out there. How did you react to that, and how hard was it to get the replacement?
Okay, so obviously I wasn't excited, and the fact that I sort of found out when I saw him on TV made me think, oh, he might not be coming. So the communication wasn't great. I definitely found out last minute that he couldn't come. So once he'd sort of done the taping, he sort of contacted me and said, "Oh, look, AEW, needed me. I won't be able to come." And I just, you can't argue. I said, "Okay, no problem at all. Thank you kindly." Anyway, and we've spoken since, and he'd love to come back and work for us in the future. I think it was just one of those things. He just sort of signed with AEW because of the Ring of Honor thing, and obviously though he was being pushed until obviously whatever happened with him happened. But so when those sort of things come up, there's nothing I can do. When you're contracted to one of those companies, they obviously take priority. So I just sort of thought, wow, how disappointing. It's our first tour back. The last thing I want to do is let down our fans, because at the end of the day, I'm a fan. I'm as passionate about our shows as our most passionate fans. I try to almost over deliver, in the sense of I prefer to get more talent, just so everyone really enjoys the shows. But so when I found out he was unavailable, I thought, oh my God, who can I get? How can I get a working visa in literally in a matter of like 10 days, or I can't even remember the time frame. It was extremely short.
It was about 10 days from memory.
Yeah, and I just thought, oh my God. And I thought, I don't want to disappoint, and people are going to be like, oh, so I literally, it was a Saturday morning, and I woke up. I think I took my kids to sport or something, and I pulled out my phone and I thought, okay, who can I get that won't be already booked in 10 days' time? Because a lot of people are already booked, obviously, months in advance, and so on and so forth. So there was a guy who I had seen not a lot of, but I just loved his look. I loved his work ethic, and he was something different. And I sort of thought, well, he's MLW world champion. I'm not sure how many people in Australia follow MLW, but I just sort of thought, I think he's impressive. And I grew up on 1980s wrestling, so I still love the larger than life characters. And so I reached out to Hammerstone, and literally within a matter of an hour, we'd done the deal. And he was so great to work with, a real pleasure. He sent all paperworks and passports and everything I needed. So literally, come Monday morning, we're on liaising with the government to get his working visa, and I don't know how, but literally it came through like within a day. Normally it takes months or a month.
Mm-hmm.
It came through within a day. Booked his tickets, and all the stars aligned. So he literally arrived the day of the show. He rocked up here at Adelaide at sort of 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and he was wrestling. He was doing meet and greets at 5 and wrestling that night. So he was definitely a trooper. I think he had a great time. We even sent him to Hawaii on the way home for
Nice.
a day and a night of R&R. But we'd definitely love to have him back again. He was a lovely guy, and I think he had a great experience. And even the matches he had on tour here in Adelaide, he wrestled Chris Basso to I thought it was an excellent match. And in Sydney, he wrestled Bonza, one of the best matches on the tour. I thought they really connected well. And speaking to Hammerstone afterwards, that were two of his highlights, wrestling two of Australia's own. So that was great to be able to do those pairings, which was wonderful.
I have to shake your hand when I see you in March, because it was the guest that I didn't know I wanted, but my heart sunk when because I didn't check the socials. I wanted to be surprised myself. So when I was there on night 1 in Melbourne, saw his name out, I literally went, oh my God, it's Alexander Hammerstone. Oh, I literally went fan, but the guys next to me just went, "Are you okay, mate?" I'm like, "Mate, have you ever seen MLW? This guy is a star. We're in a treat right now. Like,
then
thank you so much."
Oh, my pleasure, mate. And the PWI top 500 came out, and he was sort of like, in the top, I think it was 23rd or 25th. And I thought, you know what, good on him. He's worked so hard to make a name for himself. He's at it all the time. And he's definitely the cornerstone of that promotion. And he's having some great matches, which is great.
So we talked about the replacements, but how does actually someone go get booked? So not just international sales, but just local. We'll start with local, because obviously in Australia, I personally think, and I'm not trying to be biased here, but I think we personally have the best talent in the world. How does someone get your attention and get booked on WSW?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the wrestling scene in Australia, or the talent, I should say, in the wrestling scene here is fantastic. There's so many guys currently who have been around for 10 years, like, your Robbie Eagles, your Bonzas, your Chris Bassos that I mentioned earlier, your Slexers, all those guys, and there's so many more that I'm not mentioning. And there's a ton of just new talent coming through, like the Pereira, Emin, who's no longer known as the Kid, but there's so many. So I think that the schools that like Riot City do here in Adelaide, the PCW training, the MCW training in Melbourne, the PWA in Sydney, just to name a few, really are top-notch training organizations, and the talent that's coming out of those places is fantastic. So I agree with you. Definitely our crop of wrestlers here in Australia is excellent. And as far as being booked, the problem is I am quite busy, as you alluded to earlier. So I unfortunately don't get to see a lot of Australian wrestling as much as I would like to. I do tune into a little bit of stuff on Fight TV when I can, and sort of skim through some matches. But honestly, I don't get to see everybody as well or as much as I'd like to. So just putting it out there, if you're wrestling and you're keen, the best thing is to honestly send me a detailed email or a message through social media. But yeah, because if I haven't reached out to you, I may not know about you or may not even know how to contact you. I haven't got a Rolodex of just you become an Australian wrestler and automatically I get your phone number. So yeah, definitely you can hit me up for sure.
Oh, I know a lot of people that would love to be on WCW. I'm not going to name them, because then if I name somebody, they're going to go, "Why did you mention me?" I don't want to go get on that one. But yeah, so hit Adrian up, guys, if you do want to be a part of WCW, because one, like I said, it is very, very fun show and everyone seems to be having fun. But as international talent goes, is it because you have made these connections that's how you're getting them booked, or is it just through word of mouth?
Probably a little bit of both. Every industry is a small industry at its core. Word spreads pretty quickly. So I think, over the course of 20 years, we've had, quite a quite a list of talent who have come out, from Cody Rhodes to Walter to Matt Riddle to the Young Bucks to, the Dudley Boys, Brian Danielson, Samoa Joe, more recently, Matt Cardona, John Morrison or Johnny Down Under, our current world champion. There's been so many. So they all, they're all friends. A lot of them are friends. They all know one another. So, they all talk. And I guess when they come down here, we try to take care of them as best we can. And and so far we've been, blessed that they're happy to come back. And whenever I hit up somebody, they've often heard about our shows, seen them, and are quite eager to come. I actually just found out when I was looking at someone's, wish list for 2022 and like what they achieved and what they didn't. Hammerstone on his wish list was to work for World Series Wrestling, and it was like a checked box. I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. So
that's cool.
That was nice to see. But I think it's probably a little bit of both. Reputation and word of mouth definitely make a difference.
All right, so guys out there, if you're watching, network. That's all you need to do. We had TJP on here, and who love the guy, absolutely love him. But he during the interview, he was being modest. He's like, oh, they don't feel, because we had the lockdowns and everything. He's like, maybe it's not so special that I'm coming down, right? Are you a big fan of TJP as I am on this one? Because like he's modest and everything. I'm like, no, we really want you down here. And because he was saying that that you had tried to book him, I think it was either the last series or the one that got cancelled. Is that true?
There was the last one. It was the last one, the Phoenix Rising tour. We spoke, absolutely.
But yeah, he's absolutely fantastic, and I really wish I recorded the reaction video to that one, because I lost it at that, because I've been wanting to see TJP ever since I found out he was Puma in TNA, and like one of my personal heroes. So TJP, if you're listening, I love you, mate. Just lastly, the staple question that we have here at What If It's Cool is, what is something that you find cool that no one else does, and why should we find it cool?
You've stumped me. Probably many things that are not cool that I think are cool. I don't know. I can't even think. I'm for once speechless. I'm looking around the office to see if someone can give me a tip. I honestly, mate, I'm sorry, I can't.
No, that's okay. That's all right. It's a stumping one. That's okay. But I do want to ask you, because when I found out that you're doing game chairs, I really want to know, how did that come out? Because you've gone from events and all the other businesses, and then you go into video gaming. I think not only do I think that's cool, I'm just like, how did that sort of like come around to that?
Sure, you know what? It was just a family thing. So I was at home on a Thursday night, and my son turned to me and said, "Dad," he was 10 years old at the time.
Yeah,
"I really want a gaming chair." And in my mind, I'm thinking, what are you talking about? Anyway, so I thought, hang on, he's 10, he wants a gaming chair. I'm sure there's other 10-year-olds out there, other 20-year-olds, other 30-year-olds that game that want a chair. So I thought, rather than going to buy him a chair, let's investigate a little bit further. So yeah, we did some research, studied different chairs, created a range of them, all very ergonomic, and designed it, created our own brand. Each chair's got its own character, which a lot of the local RCW talent were used as inspiration for each chair. And we just created this brand and sold it in our own chain of stores. And as I mentioned earlier, sold it online. So it was really my son's doing that. He wanted a chair. So yeah, we went into the gaming chair business.
Wow. That's great. Does he have any? I know he's young, but is he have any aspirations to take over that and take him in further?
Yeah, we talk about it all the time. So yeah, he's still got a few years to go. But if there's something worth taking over, I'm sure he'd definitely put his hand up.
Oh, that's pretty cool. All right, so we're almost done, and we need to mention, because obviously there's not a lot of tickets left. World Series Wrestling is touring in March. Where can we get the tickets from, Adrian?
Sure. So there are very limited tickets left. World Series Wrestling Unleash Hell Tour. Grab what tickets are left through worldserieswrestling.com.au. Melbourne is basically completely sold out both nights. We did release some extra standing room tickets, which again, there's only a handful left each night.
Mm-hmm.
Sydney, there's limited at the very back, some seats left, and Adelaide it's selling really well as well. So there's only a handful of tickets left everywhere. But get in, we've got 15 of the world's best, as well as Australia's finest. We've got some new Australian guys performing as well, so it's nice to give some new opportunities. But see you soon.
Yeah, awesome. And lastly, where can we find you on all socials?
Just under my name, Adrian Manera, on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Yep, that's about it.
All right, beautiful. All right, Adrian, thank you so much for being part of the show. Can't wait to meet you in a few weeks. And I'm hoping that the tour is just going to be as good, if not better than last year, because if you've seen our podcast, I've only done night one. I haven't done night two yet. We'll release that either this week or next week. Yeah, definitely was one of the best nights, if not the best night of wrestling I've ever seen. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in March.
Thank you very much, mate. Appreciate the kind words, and thanks for your time.
Thanks,
see you, mate. Bye-bye.
That's the end of that episode. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this episode wherever you get your podcasts. Want more from What If It's Cool? Check out the YouTube channel, where you can find the latest episodes of Mukbang Around, Reaction, and of course, the Vlogcast. And don't forget to follow us on all platforms. We can be found all at What If It's Cool. Keep that support coming. And until next time, I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.